Okay, let's go.
Nicolas Cage podcast. Nicolas Cage podcast. Na 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 na. Vond je een film van Nicolas Cage leuk? Dan zou het kunnen dat hij in deze podcast zit. Nicolas Cage podcast. Na 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 na. National Treasure.
Hallo iedereen en welkom bij National Treasure, de podcast waarin ik, uw host Brandon Calais, iedere keer een film bespreek met Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage podcast.
This episode of National Treasure is entirely in English because of my guest Ada Güvenir. She is an animation filmmaker who just made her first short film. The film is called As If It Could, and you can see it at the Anima Festival in Brussels. The festival starts on the 23rd of February and ends at the 3rd of March 2024. So get your tickets now! Besides that she is fascinated by movement, by acting, by filmmaking, and I am fascinated by her, she is also one hell of a person to talk to. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I hope, dear listener, you do too. So, without further ado, welcome to the Cage Stage, Ada!
Na 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 na. National Treasure.
I was watching the trailer for Moonstruck
Yes.
beforehand. It's a very cool trailer.
I know. I know.
The line that the voiceover guy says, "Under the sun, nothing is new, but under the moon."
You have no idea that this has become with one viewing become my favorite film ever.
Of one viewing, so you haven't
Yes.
seen the movie yet, or?
No, I've seen it yesterday.
Okay.
And the moment it finished, I was like, I'm ready to watch it again and again and again, forever and ever. It is very strange. So I feel like I've been moonstruck, to be honest, by the film.
Totally get that, because I've seen this movie a long time ago, like in some far distant place. So I rewatched it for the podcast, and I was struck by its genius, because
It's
I see it as, Love Actually is a movie that everybody has seen, but this is the much funnier version of
it's
that
amazing.
film.
It's amazing. Like, I think this podcast, is going to just be a fangirling session. Like, I doubt I can give any. Like, I'm a very critical film critic. Like, I'm really hard to impress, and this has been this sort of movie that I cannot find a fault. Like, I would not change a single scene. I wouldn't change a single second of it. I'm still under the influence, to be honest. Like, okay, wait, I'm gonna stop. Like, let you speak for me.
No. It's all about you as well. You are my guest, so I love to hear you talk. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So your admiration for film per se, for movies, where did it start? Where did it come from?
It came from when I was very young, actually. So my admiration for movies actually started from being fascinated by animation, because I'm an animation film director. And when I was young, my parents were incredibly artistic, and I had a brother that came very late in life. I was already 12, and when he was so young, I was kind of forced to watch all of these children movies because I couldn't watch my Hannah Montana or iCarly shit, because he was a baby, he was cute, so he always got his way. And because I had to sit next to him all the time, I started drawing the characters, and I started being fascinated by how animation works. And then I kind of get obsessed with stuff like this, and I want to conquer it. And so it was like my lifelong dream to understand how it works to animate, how movement works, how it works to make a story, a film, and so it kind of grew, and now it's kind of become a career,
Nice.
which is quite nice indeed. But it's not. I mean, all careers are hard, but animation specifically. Later on, I discovered that it's a dreadful medium where you have to spend hours and hours, and I mean years and months, and just behind the computer animating for like this tiny movement. So it's like, but it has become like this incredibly strong guilty pleasure that I cannot live without, and it's like a toxic relationship. It's like we are in it together. I don't know how long, but I cannot live without it, but I can also not live with it. So that's my love for animation, and therefore also filmmaking in general, because I'm a storyteller in the essence of everything. So yeah.
Storytelling and the essence of movement and how that all works. Is there like a movie, an animation movie perhaps, that you said, this movie inspires me so much, or this is something you have to see?
Oof, some I would say I cannot give you like a feature film. I can give you quite a big list of short films, because I find
Give me a short.
Yeah.
Give me a short.
I'll give you a short, okay.
And I'll give you a short one as well that I think is
Yeah.
fantastic.
A short animation movie. I see hundreds, a lot. But I've recently watched again The Man with the Beautiful Eyes by Jonathan Hodgson, which is like a poem by Charles Bukowski that's animated. And it's a fantastic movie. It will the animation of it, the storytelling, the poem, everything kind of blends in together, and it's a beautiful experience. Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, I know Bukowski, a good friend of mine who's also been on this podcast, is a tremendous poetry fan. So oftentimes he goes, "Oh, I have this book, and you need to read this book." I go, "I have things to do, man." No, you don't. You don't. You need to read.
You need to, yeah. Poetry is poetry, film, animation, everything kind of becomes like this perfect synthesis of a moment, an emotion, and an experience. So it's like a way beautiful way, especially when it's combined. Beautiful. And I mean, Moonstruck, to go back, it's an incredibly poetic film.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Let's dive a bit into this film. The interesting thing that I find in this movie that I've seen is there was a movie called Peggy Sue Got Married. That was a movie before this one. I talked about it for my adoring fans in season 2 with Sven de Ridder. We talked about it. So this is the movie right after that one. And Cher saw that picture. And Nicolas Cage tells this in an interview for GQ. He says, I'm going to take the quote here. She immediately said, "I saw Peggy Sue Got Married, and I thought it was, well, your performance was like watching a 2-hour car accident or train wreck." He was kind of amazed that she saw it that way, but also that she wanted to work with me as a result of seeing a 2-hour car accident, that she wanted me to play Ronnie Caramari. I was deeply flattered, because I was, and still am, a fan of Cher. So that's quite intense, that Cher is a driving force for this film to have Nicolas Cage, because the studio wanted Peter Gallagher. He's good, he's famous, he's fantastic, he drives movies, get him. And Cher said, yeah, but I want someone who can play crazy and realistic. You need to have those two worlds. So she was the one who said to the studio, get me Cage.
Wow.
The studio said, fine. They brought him in for a screen test, and the studio said, we're not sure. But Cher said, if you want me in this picture, you gotta have him.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, Cher is an absolute legend in this film. Like, Cher, I mean, the thing is, I know this podcast was going to be about Nicolas Cage, but after, when I watched this film, even throughout, I was like, God damn it, like, it's impossible to not be in love with her. It's impossible to not be mesmerized by every single movement or word that comes out of her mouth, and she's absolutely incredible. And this now makes a lot of sense because I mean, I'm super happy that he chose she chose Nicolas Cage because he and her, like, they have this intense chemistry that I
Oh
think,
yeah.
like, much more happened, maybe. Like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how can you act so? That's where I was thinking either Cher is an amazing actor, but she's not known to be a great actor. So, what
Well,
happened? Why did she want him? Because they indeed have a very, this movie cannot be the movie without both of them. That has to be them. That's just what makes the movie. So,
I completely agree with that because when you see them moving and talking, their energy is right there, and the one
yeah,
time that breaks is
yeah,
when she goes down to the bakery. She's high in energy. He starts slow, then he
yeah,
punches up.
yeah,
She needs to go down, and it's that
yeah.
waterfall, it's that bike ride that is fantastic. And yeah, you can't not be in love with Cher in this
I
film, and
know.
that's
I
why
know.
she got the Oscar. It's
Of course. She got an
also
Oscar for this film?
she got an Oscar for
Oh
this.
my God. Well
Not
deserved.
only an
Well
Oscar,
deserved.
but she got a whole lot of
Oh,
nominations and prizes for this film.
oh my goodness.
The
I
same
mean,
thing with
yeah.
Olympia Dukakis, who plays Rose, the mom. She's
Yeah,
also fantastic.
I know. She's so good. But everyone who's casted is amazing, I think. And the whole, yeah, like, because it's a very interesting film about monogamy, actually. And it's
Yeah.
also, it's a very current time. If you take this movie to now, it's something that you can really explore and think about. Maybe at that time monogamy was just what it was, but now it's changed so much, and you
Mm.
can really see the way they talk about love is actually much more deeper than what at that moment love was as perceived by a society as you have your husband or wife, and they are delving much more deeper into the meaning of what it is to love someone. So it is super timeless, but also at the same time it is very from that time, and that's a beautiful way to see like this gem of a movie. And yeah, Cher. I mean, after I watched the film, I just put on Cher music and danced in my house for like 2 hours. And then I had friends coming
Valid.
over. I was like, guys, I'm in love with Cher. I think I'm just in love with Cher. I'm just gonna stare at her face for the rest of my life. And that was the kind of mania that I had right after watching the film. And still today, I'm like, first thing I did this morning was look at a photo of her, feel like, I love you, Cher. I love you forever. You will never know who I am, but I love you.
The subtlety of her character and of her performance is just wonderful because in the beginning she's just I'm gonna say this in a type of New York accent. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
just some broad who just walks on the street
Yeah.
and has some jobs and does things. But then she meets Ronnie and you see her flip. In the
Yeah.
beginning, it's we can't do this, and it slowly grows, and that's
Yeah.
because I think of the stellar performance that Cage gives in this film. He hates his brother. He dooms his brother because of his maiming of his hand.
Hmm.
And he sees this woman as an extension of his brother. So he automatically needs to hate her. But the moment that she says, "You need to eat this steak," I don't
Hmm.
like steak. You'll eat it anyway. I like it bloody. You'll eat it medium rare. So she's giving him the
Hmm.
tools. She's giving him handrails to guide his life. And he falls for that
Hmm.
very hard. And I adore that he shifts in his acting so beautifully
Hmm.
because there's this great scene. This is a scene very much known by Cage fans all over Reddit. So he looks at his hand when he's in the bakery. And he says, "I lost my hand. I lost my bride. Johnny has his hand. Johnny has his bride." And he talks about this moment because for him that's a very important moment in his career and in the making of this film. He says that he was channeling Fritz Lang's Metropolis because there's a
Oh.
professor there who rips off his hand. And you see a robotic hand, and he looks at it in disbelief and in awe. And he
Yeah.
wanted to channel that because for him, German expressionism of type of acting is being larger than life, being
Hmm.
the sauce that connects it all, and he needs that in the beginning quite hard because
Mm,
he is some sort of a golem in the basement in
mm,
the dark with only the light from the ovens. He is a
mhm,
monster, and he transforms into a human thanks to this
mhm.
bell of a creature, this Cher.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so true. And it's quite funny, like in the beginning, how the people from the bakery, there's like this girl who's also in love with him. And so they kind of also all sort of accept him as this kind of creature that lives there. And then that he's so inaccessible in every level.
Yeah.
Like he's so created such a monster of himself, but at the same time blocking out everybody around him. So when Cher arrives, he's kind of the same. He's not really acknowledging her. He's just kind
No.
of doing his own thing in his own brain and acting the way he's been doing for so long. But he feels suddenly a bit seen by her somehow because at that moment he also says, I think when they go talking or something, he asks, why do you want to talk to me? Because that's so straight. Like she invites him to the wedding and that should be done, like, but Cher just is like, but let's talk. And so for that moment he's like, yeah, but nobody has ever seen me or seen the inside this little broken boy
Yeah.
so far. So and then he starts like, oh my god. But then my favorite scene comes when he's
Oh.
taking her to the bed and
Yeah.
and
I
then
don't
she's
care.
like, whatever, I don't care. Take me to the bed. It's
It's
the best.
it's such a great moment in the movie.
Yeah.
I love that. And then you get Cosmo's moon. That the uncle goes to the window and says, "Look,
Yeah.
the moon is big. It's Cosmo's moon." And
Yeah.
that's the connection that love has
Yeah.
been sprung.
Yes. It's
It's fantastic. And to know, sadly, that when John Patrick Shanley wrote the film,
mhm.
he was not thinking about Cher.
Oh
He
my
said,
god.
"Well, I was thinking about Sally Fields,
Okay.
uh, because she will be doing Mrs. Doubtfire and Forrest Gump,
Mm.
so she is a great
Mm.
actor. But I don't think that the hardness of her
No.
character, and then the sweetness and that Sally Field could do that in this way, that you could fall in love with it.
No. I mean, Cher in this movie is the moon. She is a
Yeah.
force of nature. She is Cher. There is so much. It's like no other, I think, actress or actor in ever existed could play that better than Cher because of her energy, because of her femininity, because of her, the way she carries herself. It doesn't mean that she needs to be a good actress or not. I think it's just because of her as a person,
Hmm.
because she brings her share into that. She's just supposed to be the moon. She's supposed to be that powerful thing that is actually driving everything, but also not at all. Like she's in her own spot, in her own love story, and
Hmm.
everybody is kind of like little orbits around her, but actually she's also an orbit, but she's a different one. It's
It
yeah.
I love that you said that. I think that's a wonderful vision for this film. Indeed,
Yeah.
she is the moon, and things orbit around her. But then again, she is only the moon, so she will orbit around
Also,
other
yeah.
things. And I
Yeah.
think that's what you can see with the father figure,
Yeah.
that she orbits around him in the beginning, like he's a father,
Yeah.
and you need to give me away, and I'm gonna get married. And then because he's cheating, and she sees that he
Yeah.
needs to evolve around her, just
Yeah.
like Ronnie. She needs to go to Ronnie, but then Ronnie revolves
Yeah.
around her. Johnny, the same thing. I think
Yeah.
only the mother
Yeah.
stays true to herself.
Yeah.
In this one quote, the question that she asks her is, "Do you love him?" The first time she says, "No, I
Uh-huh.
don't," and then she says, "Ah, that's good because love will only drive you nuts."
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, when
Yeah.
asks that, she asks it about Ronnie, and
Yeah.
she says, "I love him dearly," and says, "Ah, Christ, that's not good."
That's not good. Yeah. But that's the thing. I think. Uh, Oops! I thought we lost connection. Are we back?
We're here. We're
Okay.
live. We're doing it.
So good. Yeah. At the end, then the scene at the table where I think mom and Cher is kind of the same person, but
Yeah.
just in different time zones. So she has also that kind of, she sees her daughter experience all of this the way that she somehow did in her past, because you hear her talking to this man at this restaurant and stuff. You kind of
Yeah.
feel that like Cher is the the one that's coming along, but she's sort of further with her ideas and feelings about love. And at the end, there's also the scene of like all these planets, all these orbits, all this love. They come together in this table, and there is also very interesting how Cher gets so pissed off at him, at Johnny, for saying, "I don't want to marry you anymore." Because then suddenly something that was circling around her is broken.
Yeah.
So in a way, she also likes that dominant character, being that kind of person. So it's not like she is so unaware of her charm or so unaware of her power. She is, but she also likes to play that she isn't a little bit, which makes her character so so deep and layered, I think.
Yeah, and adding to that is the moment that when she got the money from her uncle and her aunt to go to the bank, she wants to transform. The hair gets bigger,
Yeah.
taking the gray out, and it's exactly what you said. It's a femininity. It's knowing that she knows how to play
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
role. That she walks across, two men are like howling at her, like "Hey,
Yeah.
repeat," and a woo. She
Yeah.
looks, stopping that immediately, but knows, okay, I look good, so
Yeah.
now I can continue. And Johnny at the end sees that as well, says, I don't want to marry you, but then gets back into the family because grandpa says, well, they're getting married, so now you're part
You
of
are
the family.
family. Yeah.
So you'll still be revolving around.
Around. Yeah.
And you
yeah.
see that perfectly in that very last picture when the credits roll, that all the family is there, but central is the mother and Cher. These two beings, what you said, the same character actually, in different points in time. And I think if you would ever make Moonstruck 2, the Struckening, that she could play the mother, Ronnie could have some sort of affair maybe, and you get this loop in that family, but also through the moon. That would be my idea for a sequel, but then again, I would not make this. I have no money.
No, we could never make a sequel that will ever live up to the original, but like maybe an animated version or something I can do.
I would love to do the voice acting then.
Like, for sure, we could do it. Why not? Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this, if you talk about movement, you talk about performance in acting, what I find interesting about this movie is that Norman Jewison, the director, did not know that. He also directed Fiddler on the Roof and Jesus Christ Superstar.
No way.
Excellent movies, right?
What the hell?
Yeah, this is this man. This man is a genius. But what he did was some of the scenes, most famously the kitchen scene, so the last scene in the movie, he did that like a theater production, like a play. So he put these cameras all around and he let the actors just walk through the entire scene over and over and over again to get that feeling that when they respond, it's not a movie response, it's a theatric response. So they're acting with each other, and acting is reacting. So they're playing off each other again and again and again. That makes that scene, to me, so powerful, so gritty, so funny that it works. Now, there is one problem with that scene. He got fined by the Actors Union because that scene took so long to do. The actors said, can we just stop and have lunch? No, said Norman, we're going to continue until we get this right. And so he got a fine saying, you need to stop and give your actors some food, man.
Oh my god, even Cher couldn't make him stop? Like, that's crazy.
Even Cher.
Even Cher couldn't say, hey, we're going to eat now, or we're going to have a smoke break. What?
No, she couldn't. So that's why he got fined. And that, to me,
nobody's putting Cher in a corner. Nobody. He should better be fined. But at the same time, he's created a beautiful scene. So sometimes I think you need to go to some I mean, of course, it's kind of completely correct that he shouldn't disrespect or cross boundaries of people who are working for him.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to suffer to create the best essence. Like if the actors were okay with it, and they would also want to invest their time and energy and their empty stomachs into this, I would say, okay, there's no problem. But if they're not, it's not cool. But at the same time, sometimes you need this very intense moments or very intense confinements or this time or this energy that you have to go on 48 hours without sleep and to get something really special. So
Exactly. Cage did that for Leaving Las Vegas. He wanted to understand his character, and he wanted to, in one scene, to act drunk because his character, well, does a lot of weird shit in that movie.
Yeah.
So he got very drunk and he said, just roll the cameras. It's the same with Stanley Kubrick, who said to his actors in all of his films, okay, do it one more time. But we're on take 95. No, do it one more time. Because you need to go through. Sometimes you need to suffer.
break them, exactly.
Yeah.
So that something real comes out.
It's very interesting. Quentin Tarantino said that about Jamie Foxx for Django Unchained. On the first day, Jamie Foxx was being a little bit, yeah, I'm here and I'm going to do this movie. It's going to be great. It's going to be cool. And Quentin said, no, you're a slave. You're not cool. You are in a time period, so you can't do this. He needs to break them just a bit to understand what they're doing. And I think that the director of this movie, that Norman Jewison, did that because I think you're not gonna get that climax. You're not gonna get all these pieces falling together if you say, it's fine, it's okay, just do your thing. I mean, again, food is very important, so it's wrong.
Yeah, feed them, like
Feed
keep them alive. But at the same time, if everybody's on the same page and there's a great kind of dynamic with they feel safe. The most important thing is that even if I think the more you push into these like subconscious and more deeper places in your psychology to, that you feel safe to do that, and with a director that you feel like you can allow to get to those places. But that's also a very important task of the director, to make sure like you are taken care of before, after, during. So let's do this together.
Yeah.
And let's go to those places. Let's explore what is going to come out of this character. But definitely, feed them and keep them safe, keep them good.
Now, there's another interesting thing I would love to mention is that Nicolas Cage said, what I think is interesting on the character of Rani, is that he was thinking about Jean Cocteau's version of Beauty and the Beast, La Belle et la Bête.
Yeah.
And it's very like Narnia from the BBC, like a big mask and fur hands, big coat, and he had a low voice, but it was cracking. So it was a bit like this. It was more in this area, which is very interesting to experiment with. So he did that, Mr. Cage, for 2 weeks, trying like, okay, what is this character? I'm seeing a beast in this. I want to have that Cocteau version in this character. He did it for 2 weeks, and then during the holidays, he got a phone call saying, listen, we've seen the dailies. The dailies are not working. We see what you're doing. We need you to drop this voice, please. It's not working. So what Cage did was he went to the writer and said, I understand I need to drop the voice, and I'm gonna drop the voice. That's no problem. But I'm seeing something here that, am I missing something? Am I seeing double? What is it? And the writer said, well, that's normal. John Patrick Shanley said it's normal that you're seeing a beast in this, because the first title for this movie was not Moonstruck. It was The Bride and the Wolf.
Oh.
And that's why in the beginning of the film, Cher is constantly saying, "Oh, you're a wolf, you're a wolf." That's
Yeah.
that. She is the bride, and he
And he's
is
the
the
wolf.
wolf. So that's why he said, "Oh, that's why I'm seeing all these
Yeah.
animal." It's the same with Cosmo. Cosmo is also some type of animal
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he is fearing death, so he tries to extend his life by searching other women. It's the same with that
Mm.
professor who is
Mhm.
trying to regain youth. He's also being an animal, like. Uh,
And also the dogs are a huge part of the film.
Indeed, they're
The
howling at the
howling
moon.
animals to the
They
moon. So,
must howl at the moon because Grandpa is saying,
yeah.
"Howl,
Howl.
howl
Yeah.
now." So
Yeah.
it's a very animal film. It's very internal, going out.
Yeah, it is. That's why it hits so deep. Is because that's why it's also so timeless. It's about this animalistic instinct of pairing, of mating, of love, of emotion, of being this, having this brain that animals, having this consciousness, the way you can rationalize things, but at the same time this disconnect with your heart. That when you have this connection, that it's stronger, that it's like supernatural, it's with like the moon, like the animals, like that there's the power of love is so intense, but at the same time we have our brains that are like, oh, it's a cheating, it's marriage, da, 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 it's all the clutter, but then the essence. But that's why it's such a good film. How on earth are they managing to show that? Like, I still don't kind of fully understand if I would have to analyze the whole thing. I think it's in the acting. I think it's all together. I don't think it's one thing. It's not the story, it's not the acting by itself. It's everything together, the combination, the music, the one-liners. The one-liners are just, they killed me every time. Like, took pictures of the scenes with the subtitles on. Like, I think there's one that's one of my favorite ones. Wait, I'm gonna just quickly check because I took so many. um it was saying, wait, for a woman like you, I think. Wait. Sorry.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. It's okay. I'll give you one of my favorite quotes
Uh-huh.
from the movie. It's Ronnie says to Loretta, "You ruined my life," and Loretta says, "That's impossible. It was ruined when I got here. You ruined my life." Love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
For me, it's like every sentence at the moment where they're standing in front of Cage's door and he's trying to convince like Cher to come inside. Every sentence there is incredible. And the one that I like the most is, playing it safe is the most dangerous thing a woman like you could do.
That is a very
And
good quote.
that's like, to me, that's such a good feeling of like all these contrasts. You're playing it safe, but it's dangerous. You're in love, but you shouldn't be. So it's like all the time this one way or the other, but everyone's trying to figure out what to do in the middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Now, you said something interesting. It's the components, all of it. It's the acting, it's the directing, it's the music, putting all together. You get this amazing experience. So let's talk about the music. First of all, how important, that's the word I was looking for in English. How important for you is music in film, in animation? What is this? How important is it to you?
It's insanely important. I've always worked with one composer in my life. I wanted to work with other people, but the thing is, the connection between a director and a musician, when you speak the same language and you have a similar way of working, and what you can create is so much more beyond than if you would try to work with a composer or a musician who you don't have the same click with. So even when I was sometimes making films and I was thinking like, oh, I want to explore other musicians, I just kept on going back to my dear friend who we started together our journey, and we know each other's kind of music from he knows my images and I know his music, and the click was so strong that like I think for the rest of our lives, maybe we would work together. And I know that that's very common with some directors and composers, that they sort of work together. I think Scorsese also has like
Yeah, Scorsese
Yeah,
has a couple of composers he always works with. Christopher Nolan has his Hans Zimmer. Um, I think the Bruckheimer movies also have like a handful of composers that they're always bringing back. So that's completely normal because you know it's gonna be great.
yeah.
A great story about that is when Spielberg made Schindler's List. He said to his composer John Williams, like, "Hey, you need to make music for this movie. There's no one else I can ask. You need to do
Mm,
this." So John Williams looked at the film. He cried, and while he was crying, he called Spielberg up and said, "I can't do this. The music that you need the better composer than I am." And
mm.
Spielberg said, "I know, but you are the only one alive who can do this."
Oh,
That,
funny.
that's a vote of
Wow.
confidence and trust that is just
Yeah, 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 yeah.
amazing. If you can do that, wow.
Definitely. But I don't know who did the music for Moonstruck, but like there's definitely some classics that are playing, which is so good because I think yeah, the music is like which song does it start with? Like the
It
stage.
starts with D. Martin's "That's Amore."
Yeah, that's it's I mean like to bring these kind of strong hits into a film can be so bad, like it
Yeah,
can be really destructive or it can be terrible because these songs have such a you know impact on we all know it, we have our own memories, so it's like sometimes having these fresh music that's made for the film is sometimes it's a lot easier in a way than to get like such a strong hit and put it on and expect people to be like excited about it, because this movie makes you fall in love with these songs again,
mhm.
and you see them in this context and you see how good they work with this movie and like how much, yeah, so it's fantastic, and the whole Italian influence on the movie and the core of these Italian songs, like they bring out the emotion so good.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's so powerful. What you're saying is it rings very true to the feeling that I
Mm.
had when watching this film. Now, I did some research for this podcast because I'm a professional.
Tell me more.
Now, tell me more. Tell me more. Well, the music is made by Dick Hyman. Now, Dick or Richard is mostly known as a jazz musician. He
Mm.
works his piano. He's a composer. He was named a National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters Fellow in 2017. So he's top of the bill. He is the big cheese. He is
Mm.
the great Kahoot. But because he worked with some very big people, he worked with Don Elliott, with Bette
Mm.
Midler, and with our very own, very Belgian Toots Tielemans. So there's
Mm.
some proud there.
Wow.
Wow. And what you said, directors, composers, sometimes
Mm.
they have a little marriage, and that is true for Dick as well. He has worked almost exclusively for Woody Allen movies.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
The Curse of the Jade Scorpion, Radio Days, The Purple Rose of Cairo, all those, well, interesting films. And so
Mhm.
this is like his escape, his side score, his little amuse bouche for the rest of the world. Like, okay, not Woody Allen today. Let's do someone else.
Mm.
And it's the Italian. It's the exposing the emotions and
Yeah.
drawing you in. Like you said, that's very true in his
Yeah.
score because it sounds quite funny. It sounds quite classical Italian, but it draws you further and further in.
Yeah,
It's
it's not a
creeping
gimmick.
you. It's not a
That's the
gimmick.
thing.
No.
It feels like if you would use that kind of music, these traditional Italian tunes, a bit funny, a bit dramatic, and you can turn a film into a ridiculously bad B status like rom-com that nobody ever sees,
Yeah.
and but in this it completely works the opposite way, and I think there is quite a lot of diversity also. Like you have these strong, catchy tunes, but you have some very soft melodies at the back sometimes as
Yeah.
well during emotional moments. So, like the balance is like close to perfection, I think. Well, it is perfection. I think there's nothing bad about this movie. You really need to convince. Is there any? Do you think there is something that could be better in this film in any way?
Oh wow, that's a very interesting question. I think for in that time, no, absolutely not. If you want
Yeah.
to bring this story to today,
Oh,
you
surely.
need
Yeah.
to adapt some things. But I
Of
think
course.
quite often, I think that if you take a story that's been said in this time or
Yeah.
been made in that time and then need to bring it to 2023 or older than that, 24, 25, that
Yeah.
you need to you're breaking something.
Of course.
It's like with the entire there's now a new Mean Girls is coming out,
Yeah.
and it will be with social media, and that breaks for me a kind of magic that movie has.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with bringing old stuff into the new. I think the best thing that I have seen that does that is the Sherlock series by Moffat and
Mm-hmm.
by Gatiss, because they use technology
Mm-hmm.
to not only enhance Sherlock and
Mm-hmm.
Watson, but also enhance the mystery. If you can do it on both ends, then the stakes keep rising and you can believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
I
to
see.
me is a good example of making it new. With
Yeah,
Moonstruck,
so
I would
Moonstruck,
not try that.
I wouldn't even try it either because there's definitely some problematic things if you would bring it here. There's
Yeah.
quite a lot of sexism and all this stuff, but like,
So
I don't want to change any of it actually. I mean, yeah, sure, if you would remake it today, you cannot do certain jokes, you cannot do certain scenes, but that's what makes Moonstruck, and I don't
yeah,
want to. But if you would think, because a lot of the times when I see movies, I'm like, oh, it's a little bit too long. Oh, it's a little bit, I have something to say, and with this one, it was not too long. That's my biggest issue with films. I get bored quite fast, and that's what my first feeling was after I watched the film. I was like, I even watched till the end of the credits because I was not bored. I did
yeah.
not want for it was not a wasted second in this movie. And every time I was so in love with it throughout the movie that I would check how long still the movie had to go,
Mhm.
so that how long I still had time to enjoy it. I was always thinking, oh no, it's already more than halfway. I just never wanted to finish, and that I haven't felt in a very very long time. And I mean, maybe I was also a slight little bit high, like just a little bit. And that would be my best advice to everyone who is after this, because I also never like laugh out loud on my own in my own house, like while watching a film. But I was making so many noises. I was interacting with I was talking to Cher. I was talking to Nicolas, and my dog was staring at me like, "What the fuck is this girl doing?" So if you ever if you if you ever want to watch this film, just get a little bit high, but not too high to not understand the movie. So you will have the best time of your life.
Yeah,
Was the best
take the
day.
advice from Towley from South Park. Let me get a little high. Just a
Yeah,
little
let me
high.
get a little high.
Let me get a little
Yeah.
high. No,
Mm.
I couldn't change anything in this movie to
No.
because I don't want to. I mean, it's a product of its time, and I want it to have that. So with all the errors of stereotypical Italians, maybe, or maybe plot
Yeah.
lines that seem on first hand it goes nowhere, but I think it enriches the story, like the whole thing with the professor. I love that because I think it's very funny, and I
Yeah,
think it
not
it
everything needs to be doing something for the plot. Like sometimes you just have these like embellishments. It's a decoration. It's a something that gives a feeling. And
yeah,
the howling, the dogs, the professor, everything that gives the feeling. It doesn't necessarily need to have a function. And I think that's
exactly.
why films are so sometimes exhausting to watch, because you know that everything has a role and you kind of need to be alert all the time and know like, oh, it's gonna come back again, and
And that's
so
quite funny that you mentioned that, because when the test audience saw this film, first there was not That's Amore by Dean Martin on the title sequence, but it was a
Mhm.
piece from La Bohème, the opera where they that you can
Oh,
see, and they said, "Wait, I think I need to pay attention very closely to everything they're saying because I think this is an
yeah,
art film, so I need to be focused."
yeah.
And after the screening, the audience gives their opinions, and they said, "Yeah, I thought this was an art film because of the music in the beginning, and I was paying very close attention. So there's some things that don't work." And then the director said, "So we need to change the music for the intro very fast." And it was the
Okay.
composer that said, "What about that Samore?" Because
Wow, that's such a big difference. That is a
yeah,
crazy difference. That is magic what music can do, you know?
yeah, but it's also what the audience needs to do. The audience
Yeah.
with this music is being said, maybe get a little high, but also,
Yeah.
but relax and enjoy this film. It's about romance. It's quite funny. We'll take you in our arms and guide you through the streets
Yeah,
of New York. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. And
exactly.
if you have the idea that, okay, I need to keep focus, or the other way around, nothing's happening, because that's a thing that I've talked about with one of the other guests off mic, that there is this age that there's very much content but not very much to see or to listen to,
Mm,
because it's just filler. Like, okay,
mm,
so what are you saying or what are you doing? I
mm.
need to see something. um, and that's not Moonstruck, because in Moonstruck
No.
they're creating a tiny piece of the world where you dive right in. And
Mhm,
um, I'm if there was like a book of Moonstruck with some characters and they're doing something else, I would love to buy that, love to read it,
mhm,
because that corner of the world I love. I think
mm.
that's great.
I'm completely on the same page. Yeah.
Now, do you think that this movie has done well in terms of finance, in terms of awards, in terms of scores on the internet? What do you think?
Well, now you said Cher got an Oscar. I kind of assume it did very good. It's a weird feeling, is because you feel I felt so close to the movie while
Mm.
watching it. Like at one hand, I mean, I don't know how good it did, but at one hand, so far, okay, sorry, I get super
No,
distracted.
no, dude,
My
go,
own
go,
thoughts.
go, go, go.
When I told my friends I was going to watch this film, they didn't know. In one hand, that made me quite happy because
Hmm.
I also didn't know this movie until I selected it. And you, I think the movie is so, it hit me so deep that partly, you sometimes feel like I wish nobody else knew about this movie and this was just mine and this was my own. Like, I felt so dearly. I wanted to keep it so close to my heart. I didn't even want to tell people to watch it,
Yes,
but at
Mike
the same
Precious.
time I really did. So in this way, like, I kind of hope that it was very successful because it's a great movie, but at the same time, like, this is like, if it's not, then I get to be the one to kind of like decide whether I'm gonna tell my friends more like, oh, you should see it or not. You know what I mean?
I completely understand. It's you found something and think, oh my god, this is great. I love this.
Yeah,
But I don't want it to be commercialized. I don't want it
exactly.
beaten down. Like Fast
Absolutely.
and the Furious, it's completely
Yeah.
dead. Back to the Future, it's also like, hey, you seen this? We got 1 million copies of this. Come on.
Yeah.
It's I have it a tiny bit with Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but
Hmm.
everywhere you go, it's like T-shirts and mugs and this and that, and I'm thinking, Stop, just enjoy what is, and not
I know.
don't try to get another
That's why I've never
penny."
seen Lord of the Rings. I've never seen it, and people are like, "What? Have you never seen Lord of the Rings?" And it's just over. I'm sure I will like it, but because everybody loves it,
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to be in the same. I mean, I'm sure it's a masterpiece. It's great, but I just cannot make myself get to the point of like being like, yeah, okay, it's great, because it creates so much pressure on the
yeah.
viewer and it's so acclaimed, and that's why I loved watching this and being completely unaware of the existence of this movie and then being blown away, So if I had known about it before, like other Nicolas Cage films, if I had chosen, I would have approached it with already a mindset of like, I
Yeah,
know, I expect what's coming. It's a good movie. Yeah.
I recognize this very much. I had that with Breaking Bad. Like my
Ah,
brother-in-law
yeah.
said, "You need to watch Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is the best show in the world." And I said, I'll watch something else." And then years later, I said, "Okay, I got Netflix now. let me watch the show. And I love the show. It's a great show, but I need to have that period that
There's
no one
time.
is, time. No one needs to see this right now, so I can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I had the same thing with Massive Talent, a film by Nicolas Cage as well. I was the only one in the cinema when I saw it, so I have a deep connection with that movie because I'm the only one in the
That's
theater.
amazing.
That's it's such a good feeling, and it's what you say. It's just it's
Yeah.
mine, and it's my baby right
Yeah.
now. So just stay away. But
Exactly.
thank God, a lot of people had that same feeling because
Okay.
this film had a budget of 15 million. So that's
Okay.
very good for that period of
Yeah,
time.
it's pretty good.
Uh, it finished third of the US box office and spent 20 non-consecutive weeks in the top 10.
Mhm.
In the US and Canada alone, it made $80 million. Worldwide, it made $122 million. So that is tremendous. That is amazing that this film made so much
Mhm.
money. And it
Mhm.
had 6 nominations for the Academy Awards. So, actors in a leading role for Cher, she won. We also have actress in a supporting role for Olympia Dukakis, who also won. And for best
Mhm.
screenplay, John Patrick Shanley also won. Then we have no best picture, Vincent Gardenia in the supporting role, and director. They didn't win, but they were nominated for the Academy Awards. So 3 Oscars for this fabulous film. And Cage only got 1 nomination for this movie, for a Golden Globe. For best performance by an actor in a motion picture, comedy, or musical, but it did not win.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Well, the for sure the women in the movie are they got it,
yeah,
Cher and the mo
and
I
it's
didn't think Cage was bad. It's just to me like he's the perfect guy to play the perfect. It's perfect with Cher. I just cannot really think. I mean, it's not as memorable as Cher. It's not as, but that's not his fault. I
no,
think
that's not his fault. No,
so if you, that's why it's interesting. I mean, I think he deserves some sort of recognition for his performance here, but
oh, that's absolutely happening. So in the Nicolas Cage community,
okay,
yeah, the thing, if you ever say to a fan, "I lost my hand," or just do this to someone who loves Nicolas Cage, they go, "That's
okay.
Moonstruck. That's that scene. That's Ronnie. I love that." It's
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
it's kind of come back. So people are like Moonstruck. He did so good in Moonstruck. People are
yeah.
acknowledging, admiring his performance. That's great.
That's totally true. Yeah, yeah. So even with me, if I, because I love, for instance, Raising Arizona, I think that's great. So if someone goes up to me and says, "Want to steal a baby?" I say, "Yes, sure, I'm gonna do it." And the same thing with the hand. If someone says,
Yeah,
"Does this?" I say, "Oh yeah, that hand, that's Fritz Lang.
yeah,
I know, I'm there." And
yeah.
that's great because there are communities of Nicolas Cage fan all around the world, and
Oh my
that's
goodness,
quite funny that we all know. Oh yeah, the hand.
the hand.
Great.
I mean, he also has another really, really cool moment where I think when he like flips the table, and
Yeah.
then like when he flips the table, and Cher is so unimpressed by that. She's like, "Oh God, like what a it's like a man just doing this whole scene." It's like her face is the description of I think a lot of what a lot of women feel a lot when men do these kind of actions. It's like, oh, for God's sake, just have a normal conversation. And then he sort of stands like this statue. It's
Yeah.
not even a normal stance. It's like he flips the table and he gets in this weird pose and he arches his back and looks at her or something. And it's a ridiculous, but it's so funny to me. But he also plays it so well that it's not a gimmick again. Like
Yeah, indeed.
it's not a joke, but it's so subtle that there is the humor and Cher just kind of like, well, I don't care what you're doing.
I
Um,
think in that moment, as an actress, she's thinking, and that's exactly why I asked you to do this
yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flip that
But
table.
yeah,
Same in the basement when he flicks the bottle and it breaks.
yeah,
It's just he's aggressive.
Yeah.
But
And
he
he
calms
stands
down.
behind these motions. You don't feel hesitation when he's doing that, when he's flipping the table, when he's actually really in the role and doing it and with intention. It's not because you hear like I would have believed it if you would say that was improvised, because it feels so raw and so real and so fitting with the character that I could understand if the director didn't order him to do that and he just felt like doing it, But most likely it was shot for that because the camera was further, so it was planned. But yeah, he's looking incredibly handsome in the film. Like when he
Oh, yes.
stands, like they know he looks good, and I like that they're playing with the fact that he has this older brother that's not very physically attractive, and then this young Nicolas Cage that's like an absolute snack. It's like and Cher is kind of like this MILF character. Like I would just watch it. I'm gonna watch it again after this podcast.
Absolutely. I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about some scores. So there are a couple of sites that give movie scores. I want to go through with those scores with you to see what you think of these.
Okay.
Let's start with the obvious one. That's IMDb. So it's on 10. What do you think that the IMDb crowd said that this movie has in
But
as a score?
IMDb is very I find
Shitty,
it
yeah.
yeah, IMDb never. Sometimes they get it right, but then it's also like if you're just doing random stuff, you also get it right sometimes. It's not like a big thing. I would say maybe like 7.1.
That is exactly right.
No!
Exactly right. That is amazing.
Holy
That's like
shit.
pluck.
I am 100%. I promise I did not check it at all. Like, I really did not. So it was a 7.1 came to me.
Listen, if the gods speak, you must answer.
Wow, 7.1, not enough though. That's
Not
why
enough.
I thought it's gonna be 7.1. For me, it should be 8.5.
Well, let's
IMDb.
go to Rotten Tomatoes then. So you have the critics and you have the audience. We're gonna play a game for this one. It's an old television game from Belgium TV. It's called Higher or Lower, Hoger Lager.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you the score from the critics, and you're gonna say if the audience scored higher or lower.
Okay.
Okay, so the critics gave it a 92 on the freshness scale. That is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
What did the audience say? Higher or lower?
Oh, higher. I want it to be higher. I think it's gonna be lower, but I'm gonna say higher because I want to believe.
It's gonna be lower. It's 80%.
I
but
know.
I understand you just want it to be just a little bit higher.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, guys. We're all in love with Cher. Let's just admit it to ourselves and give it 100%.
Yeah, just fresh. Mwah.
Yeah, just fresh. And what is it then?
Movie Meter gave it a 3.2 stars on 5. And my favorite review site ever, that's called bol.com, that's a shop, an online shop, gave it 5 stars for the DVD.
Okay, great.
And I brought 2 of the reviews. I'm going to do it in Dutch first and then in English, because it is very funny. So the first one is from Proefken. She's 70. And she says, it's a must-have for romance lovers. Een romantische film van de lang vervlogen tijd. Zo maken ze er geen meer, met geweldige muziek. A romantic movie of an age gone long by. They don't make them like this anymore, with great music. I think that's true.
Completely.
They don't make him like that because they don't...
Because they cannot do it anymore like that.
Yeah, you
and
miss the
that's
quality.
why they cannot. They also, in this day and age, you cannot do with something like that. Would be problematic. I think to an extent. So they need to. I think romance and like these kind of love stories need to be rediscovered again, because nothing that's being made to me is feeling so deep. Like, although I think I've seen a film called this French film was about a recent film.
The French and their romantic cinema. I
Yeah,
believe it. It's like,
French
ooh,
is
sacre bleu, I'm in love with you.
yeah. French is magic. Or I saw a Swedish film called Sick of Myself, which was also a strange kind of love story
Cool.
that worked in this day and age. But like Moonstruck, you can never make again. And I think I must say, like from everybody not trying to piss off any of these situations. Nobody wants to be homophobic. Nobody wants to be sexist. Nobody wants to be,
Of course.
portray something in a stereotypical way, which I completely understand and I'm on the behind it. But what can we convey? How can we do it? It's still not to me in found out yet. Like it needs to. It doesn't have the same spirit these films have. So people don't want to take risks anymore. They
Yeah.
don't want to piss off anyone. So all these films are to me falling a bit short on the emotional level because you can feel that the directors are walking on eggshells to not be cancelled. These kind of things, but
I don't know about that, but I do recognize the coming short in the movie because I like romantic movies. I mean, I'm a soft guy, but I when I see a new romantic movie coming out on Netflix or on HBO or whatever, I'm thinking I there's something here which I cannot connect to. There's a hurdle or something. And it's not because anything with gender or with sexuality because
yeah,
that doesn't matter to me. But it's about the
sure.
development of the character. That to me is there's something missing. But we'll see. Maybe they'll rediscover this fantastic genre and we'll get something wonderful. Just like the Maren, who wrote a review for this movie. He said, Italiaans temperament verpakt in de verhalen over twee generaties. De romance tussen midlife dochter Cher en de jongere heftige broer van haar verloofde, Nicolas Cage. Spitse dialogen om veel te lachen. Blijft ook een topper. En video is grijs gedraaid. Eindelijk komt die op DVD. In English, it's Italian temperament, wrapped around in a story of two generations. The romance between midlife daughter Cher and the young but intense brother of our fiancé, Nicolas Cage. Fierce dialogues and lots to laugh about. It remains a classic. My VCR has been worn out finally. It's on DVD.
That's great. That's great.
I think that's fantastic to
Yeah,
say
on
because we
point.
all have that one movie on our VHS when you're born in the
Yeah,
90s or earlier
yeah.
that you know, like, oh crap, the VCR tape is just like broken on these parts.
Broken. Yeah. That's exactly how I would, if how it would be with me if I had discovered it earlier. But I kind of want to just own it in VHS, just
Ah,
for the feeling of like having it as a cassette, like this
oh
VHS
yeah.
tape, just to put it on a shelf and be like, I love you.
Now I'm gonna get one more review here, and that's by Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert was a great critic. He wrote for the Chicago Sun-Times. Unfortunately, he's dead, and we cannot talk about Nicolas Cage without talking about Roger Ebert because
Okay.
he followed his career along a very long trajectory. And he writes about Moonstruck. Reviews of the movie tend to make it sound like a madcap ethnic comedy. And that it is. But there is something more here. A certain bittersweet yearning that comes across as ineffably romantic and a certain magical quality. That's why he put it on his great movie lists.
Wow. Okay, we are all on the same page. Like anyone who listens to this podcast, you have no reason at this point to not just like turn this podcast off and start watching this movie. And the thing is,
Absolutely.
yeah, indeed, like I had no idea about the reviews. I had no idea about how it was perceived. This was my genuine feeling. And then, when you see like people are agreeing on the same thing, that is actually good. And that's rare. Like that you don't get a single bad review. Even if films have bad reviews, that doesn't make them bad. But
Yeah.
it's such a universe. It hits so deeply in each person, wherever you are. If you're in New York, Italian living in New York, or a Turkish girl living in Belgium, it hits you.
Yeah.
So that's the best what a movie can do. I think that's the I think that's every director's dream, to be able to create a movie that has an impact like that on everyone in the world. Yeah.
Speaking about impact, I'm gonna ask you the last question for this podcast
Okay.
because our time is nearly up. The question that I ask all my guests is: we're searching for the answer of, is Nicolas Cage a national or sometimes even international treasure? So
Mhm.
after seeing Moonstruck, what is your opinion? What is the verdict? What do you think about Cage?
Does it need to be like one sentence, or can I
It can be.
elaborate on it?
You can elaborate a lot. You can do whatever you
Okay.
want. But this is the final question, the last stroke. That sounds weird.
Final
I'm sorry.
question. What is a treasure? That's a big question. What does it mean to be this? I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he has done an incredible job in this movie. I think without Cher,
Without Cher,
without Cher,
Sally
I don't
Fields.
know, how it would have been. I think he's a special man. He's very handsome. No, I think he is, but I think also many people are.
Mm-hmm.
I think people like him, who have such a broad career of so many films, of so many opportunities that he has in his life, to have grabbed everything and to have made something out of everything is very special. And I think many other actors and actresses could have been not as lucky or not has had the same kind of opportunities that maybe aren't seen at the way he is being perceived right now. But I think from what he had, what he did with it is that he gave everything, and that makes him a national treasure, I would say, and a special actor, because so far from the films I've seen, you don't really always feel like he's doing it for the money. He's an artist. He's
Absolutely.
doing it because he believes and he wants it, and that's his calling. And when you see films and you see that the actors' performances you can see that they're sort of slightly not interested in the role or bored. You can tell.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, and so far every Nicolas Cage movie I've seen, he's in it with all of his heart, and therefore he's done the best thing he could do during his career, of making the most out of every movie. But acting wise, I'm not an acting expert, and I don't know what the kind of conversations are surrounding Nicolas Cage's acting skills.
Mm-hmm.
But from an audience point of view, yeah, for sure, he's great.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you for doing this podcast with me.
Sure. I mean, I loved it. I think I would. My dream is to be just a speaker. I wish I could earn money with speaking. Maybe I should start my own podcast.
Hey, why not?
Why not? Why not? Like, I love talking, especially about film. So,
Well, if you ever make a podcast and you need some white ass Belgian to come on it,
Sure.
hey, I'm here.
yeah, I would love to. Definitely.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You as well.
Dit was het voor deze keer. Ik bedank graag Jeff Jacobs en Naomi van Damme voor de intro, Megan Kremers voor het artwork en u om te luisteren. Graag tot de volgende keer when we will capture lightning in a cage.
Nicolas Cage podcast. Na 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 na.